Frank goes to Hollywood.
Who's asking you?
I'd like to tell a story about my cousin. He's 10 now, but when I first really talked to him, he was 8. And he was about this tall, maybe, really tiny kid. Now, usually when kids find something so interesting to them that they'll talk about, like it's the world, and you look at them like and say, "What the hell are you talking about, kid? I have no idea what you're saying." And he was imitating this thing, you know. He was pretending to be a shark and doing all this crazy stuff and going, stupid. But when I understood where he got the idea from, then I was shocked. See, his mother was not very responsible at the time. She wasn't a very good mother, and he let him play whatever he wanted to play. And when I looked at what he had in his hand, I was immediately enraged because he was playing a PlayStation 2 game about Jaws, the movie. And on the front, it had the M rating for mature. And this kid's 8, and he's playing a game about blood and violence, and eating people and dismembering them. And I said, "No, Joseph, you can't take this game." So I took it away from him and said, "You can't play this at all. You're not supposed to be playing this." Then he became more angry, and he started hitting me and kicking me and biting me like Jaws, trying to get the game back. And I pushed him away, and finally he calmed down, and I put the game away. But for a child to be so enticing by that game that he would actually resort to violence to get it back is just disturbing. And this has been going on for years now, and it's become a psychological problem according to many people. And that's what I'd like to talk about today, is the idea that violent video games entice and allow people to imitate their actions. Now, I myself have been playing games for years. I love them, and I love them so much that I blew off this project until last night to do it. So, you think it's funny? So, when I talk about this, I really do understand the topic, and I've played a lot of violent video games, and when you look at Xbox Live and you hear all these teenagers cursing, complaining, and then just doing the most ridiculous stuff, you begin to question why people have allowed this to happen so far. Now, to understand this topic, we should go over the assumed threat and history of video games and their predecessors. And in the recent court case from California to the Supreme Court against the video game industry, as well as the current system that rates and moderates the games and regulates the games itself. So with this, I'd like to exemplify the fear of video games. Before video games, we had movies. Before movies, we had television. And before television, radio, books, whatever we could to formulate these ideas of pictures. So with television, people actually try to imitate television as well before video games. It is only until now that it's become a problem because video games are so interactive and they allow people to control characters that we can allow them to actually control characters to dismember, harm, and otherwise destroy anything they want, however they want. And so then you begin to question, why would they want to do this in the first place? One of the most horrifying examples of such a situation was the Columbine high school massacre, where students Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold actually murdered 12 students and a teacher and harmed various others. When people began to question it, they looked over various evidences of the students and discovered that they had a fond fascination of the game Doom. So much so that they created a map. They modified the game level to create a map exactly duplicating the school grounds as it is and creating characters to shoot and plan this. And it was rumored that they actually did find the idea from Doom when they made a video prior to this where they were drinking Jack Daniels and holding a shotgun and saying, "This is going to be like fucking Doom, man." And that's a real quote. Now, aside from those two, we can question if they were actually psychologically insane or psychologically sane because of the Jack Daniels, because they were so fond of it. But then we have to look at other evidences of video game imitation or enticement. There are other people around the world that not only imitate it, but are so angry when people try to interrupt them from the video games that they resort to violence. There's a man who beat up a 15-month-old child for interrupting their game of Xbox because of their cry. There was a mother who strangled their child and then left them in the cradle because the baby was interrupting the game of the Facebook game Farmville. That's the saddest story I've ever heard. And then, of course, there's other moments where people rob GameStop for 100 copies of Black Ops. The list goes on. So when we look at that and we wonder, should we take the steps necessary to prevent this? California decided they should. In November 2nd of 2010, a court case was filed from Arnold Schwarzenegger against the entertainment industry for the prosecution of video game violence and banning or making it illegal to sell ultra-violent video games to children. This was actually a bill formed in 2005 by Senator Leland Yee, PhD, to create a fine against retailers who would sell these games for $1,000 to children. While the bill was ratified and considered unconstitutional, which is why they went to the Supreme Court, the bill actually won much garnered attention from adults. In August 13th through the 16th of 2010, 2,100 adults were questioned. Out of the 2,100, 72% were in favor of the bill. And out of that 2,100, 65% were actually concerned of the impact of ultra-violent video games to their children. And again, out of the 2,100, 75% would give negative ratings to the gaming industry for actually wanting to sell these games. Of course, you know, profit is profit, and gaming industries would sell to anyone. That is not true, actually, and I'll go over that much later. The court case itself exemplified a very contemporary game called Postal 2, which was developed in 2003 by Running with Scissors Publishing. The game displayed ultraviolence in the sense that players could pick up any form of weapon and shoot and dismember, dismaim, and urinate on corpses if they chose, as well as kicking their heads like soccer balls and otherwise just downright horrible acts. And I would agree with what they say that it is not the best, or it is not the game that we should be selling. However, there are all sorts of other games that do not display that, and I think Postal 2 is just the one. Now, because of Postal 2, they created they were creating a standard for which games should go by, which in the category A comes within following: is a reasonable person considering the game as a whole would find appeals to deviant or morbid acts in the interest of minors. Again, with the kicking and the urinating and all that stuff, is patently offensive to prevailing standards in the community as to what is suitable. The game itself actually displayed characters resembling the Columbine massacre. It causes the game as a whole to lack serious literacy, artistic, political, or scientific values to minors. It did not display any form of a plot. It made a guy with no name for a week kill all of his community within his city. And the following category B enables the player to virtually inflict serious injury upon image of human beings or characteristics in a manner which is especially heinous, cruel, depraved, in that it involves torture or serious physical abuse to the victim. Again, the dismembering and the destruction of property and peoples. However, this court case is followed with resistance from from other various industries such as movies, television, and comic books, in accordance to the violation of the First Amendment, in that if this industry was to fall, others would fall with it. Now, despite this California attempt, we should also understand that there is already a system in place that regulates this. The Entertainment Software Rating Board, created in 1984, administrates ratings to the front and back of these boxes. It's the same thing as the movies, you know, R rating and PG-13, in that they have early childhood, everyone to end up teen, mature, and adults only. The standard is that no one under the age of 17 is allowed to buy a mature game. Now, a Gallup conducted a survey August 29th to the 30th, polled 1,033 adults, in that who should be responsible for children obtaining these games. 83% parents thought that parents had a great responsibility in it, and again, out of that 1,033, they felt that the industry was responsible, or that 28% thought the government was responsible. But we already have a system in place that